Welcome, Coach Mastermind community. It looks like we are live, and today we are going to be talking about the shadow. Just for those who don't know, what we are doing here is a weekly live call where we bring coaches from all over the world to share and exchange their wisdom with us in a non-judgmental environment. So today we will be talking with Luciënne about shadow side of humans. Luciënne, could you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us what you do, what's your background?
Yes, thanks so much for the invitation for this interview. My background is business background, and until in 2012, I had an unexpected, unplanned spiritual awakening. That always happens unplanned, by the way, but I was not into spirituality at all up until then. Mm-hmm. And even when it happened, I was not even sure what had happened because I was completely unknown in that area. But what did appear in my life, when I woke up out of that session, was experienced completely differently. So I was really curious, and I'm an engineer, so I have a way to just explore things. I want to analyze things. I want to deepen things. So there was a huge question like, what has happened to me and how is life actually working? Because it feels so different. My past felt different. My emotions on my past experience felt different, as if it was almost washed away. So I began a deep exploration just by really wanting to understand how it works. I went into quantum physics. I went into new sciences on psychological side of things. I went various things, and not so much the spiritual thing. I did that as well, but I didn't feel so much aligned with the love and light, happiness, joyful things that were happening out there. Until I found one teacher who really could explain it very technically to me. And that helped again. So because it was still answering my question, like what had happened and how is life working? To make a long story short, I did this in my free time. I spent every single second on it, never ever watched television again after that because I was just honestly curious and excited to explore. It was pure excitement. There was no purpose to it. It was just like, I just wanted to know. But then later, when you have come across so much knowledge and wisdom, you want to share simply. So my excitement shifted to passion. I changed my career again. I became a coach, certified coach, because that really helps in this world to just show your papers. Then they think you're more accessible for things, and they like to work with you easier when things like that happen. But my approach in coaching, whether I do it with business leaders or one-on-one on life coaching, has always been making wisdom and making science very practical into daily life situations. So I don't want to dream away with people, neither do I want to stick in stories with people, the dramas. So I really want to shift it into, okay, but what does it mean for you today? Because only what happens today is what you can work with. You cannot really work with your past anymore other than accepting that it has been like that and that you have to release something there. You cannot still work in your future yet because that still has to happen. But what's present in your day today is actually what you can work with. So I designed a program now. Sorry.
No, I just have some comments on that, but carry on with the program. I would note it and we'll ask you after.
Okay. So I designed various ways for people to work with me. That can be in a business circumstance. Then I make it absolutely more aligned to business challenges and business questions, especially on leadership. And I work with people one-on-one, so that's where I'm now. And I just love doing what I do.
And you remember,
it doesn't feel like work, actually.
I think that's the beauty of working with people. When you get to the moment that you don't feel like it's work, but that's giving you some sort of fulfillment inside of you.
Yes.
And
exactly.
You mentioned that you get some that moment where you were awakened, enlightened, or the moment that
you call it.
Whatever you call it, exactly. Do you remember it was some sort of specific conversation with another person, or just you suddenly wake up and things were?
No, no, in that moment, I was the months or the year before, I was really stuck. I wasn't depressed or anything. I was just like, life just sucks, you know, nothing is working. It's not flowing. I had arguments with people I didn't understand. Nothing worked anymore in that moment. I had a beautiful relationships, beautiful kids, but somehow I did not feel aligned with life at all. And I simply was confused and I was frustrated. And then I met a person who cleared my house energetically, because my house felt very uncomfortable to me at times. And he confirmed that when he did the clearing, there was some stuck energy there. And then he said, well, I can also give you a personal clearing. And I had no idea what he was offering. So I said, yeah, sure, you're here now, so let's do it. And that was the first time when he did that, I had my first little awakening. And then I get back to him 2 weeks later. I said, well, I can feel a real huge block physically in my body, literally in my stomach. And so I want you to work on that. I said, I'm scared as hell, because I feel if I open that, I don't know what opens up, but I want you to work on that. And he doesn't do, I wouldn't call him a healer, although he does do that, but he doesn't call him a healer himself. He's just very technical, focused on energy blocks within systems of people. And he's just very sensitive guy who can easily detect that with others, and then can open up his heart and release the energy, because you can only release an energy, shift an energy, if you have a higher frequency next to it. But I might get too technical now, but that's actually what happened in that moment.
But you needed to be open. You needed to be open to that, right? So you needed to be fully open-minded towards whatever he did at that time.
At least you have to complete surrender and get your mind, which is most of the time the one that always keeps us back in life. Let go of your mind, let go of expectations, let go of, because I've sent many people after that, of course, to him, like, wow, this is really great experience, you should go there. But then people went with expectations and went with desires, and then it works less. Obviously, I was just lucky that I was so innocent and so open, like I was just completely receiving whatever was there, he opened up to. So yes, but it requires complete surrender. That's why for most people, awakening experience happens gradually. You open up yourself, create more awareness, and that's how I work with people. So just raise their consciousness by literally become aware of how life is working for them or against them.
Do you remember, what would you say that the average people age is, that in your case, and people are going there, what would you say is the average age that people are open to that kind of experience for them?
That's an interesting question, because that is actually the big question. What makes the people ready to open up to a next phase in life? Indeed. Which of course has been a huge question for me, because it happened to me like this. And what I notice with the people I work with and the people who are around me in the groups I'm joining, is that there is no age to it. There needs to be a certain inner drive, an inner neediness, an inner stuckness, whatever it is. It has to come from inside in order to open up to that. So, and I noticed that nowadays it happens more with young people, because they are simply, so the young, then I mean like 20 plus, between 20 and 30, because they're struggling with how the world is. I think they are born with a higher frequency already, so they don't automatically enter our systems as I did when I grew up, a bit earlier than that. I'm a little bit older. And I just automatically accepted everything that was taught to me, or everything that was programmed in me. I just took it on. I had to make a career, because that was how my parents taught me. I had to become successful, because that was one of the values for them, or at least become sustainable and financial independence for yourself. But nowadays, when the internet is opening up to so much more information, young people start to question themselves more, or question life more, and they don't automatically go for a full career and work full time and just do everything there. My first job was like 80 hours a week. I was just like fully on it. I didn't even question whether it was right or wrong for me. It was just, no, you're going to do that. It's an opportunity. It's your first career step. And now I see people starting jobs with, no, I want to do it part-time because I have another life as well. was completely out of the question for me. You did not have another life. You had a career, and then you might marry, and then you had kids or whatever. And you know the logical steps.
That was programmed, and then you
Yeah,
have people
absolutely.
who are asking themselves, oh, why do I actually need to work 80 hours? I would like to
Exactly.
rather develop my own business or something on
Yeah.
side. Or I would like to travel, or I would like to
Yeah.
record videos and show that around the
Exactly.
world.
And there's so much more value in life than just career, of course. I mean, we love to make money, we love to live comfortably, but you can do it in so many ways these days. Like I'm doing now. I'm doing my work mostly online, so it's already shifted a lot for me in freedom. But it's our programming, yes, definitely holds us back. But my clientele right now is mostly 40 plus and going into midlife crisis, which is the same sign of stuckness, like waking up to a moment in life where they ask the question, do I want to continue like this? It doesn't feel right anymore. That's what we classically call the midlife crisis. And it's a beautiful gift from life, because otherwise, if you ignore that question, and people do that, then the body replies with stuckness and illnesses. And then they say, oh, I'm getting old, my body feels stuck, and my joints are no longer working, I cannot do my exercise anymore, etc. No, it's not that you get old. You make yourself old because you ignore the signals of the body. You ignore your question.
I think from that point, when you have that questions and you ignore them, the burnout might appear. You might slowly burn yourself out because you're ignoring what your body is saying. Like about 2 months ago, I added up the work, my full-time job, and I was working my business side, which involved 13 hours a day of work. And I was like, oh, let me add a little bit more. And my body was saying, oh, you need to spend some time for yourself as well. No, let me make some money, and then I will enjoy myself. Actually, that's a vicious circle, because you never ending up on being satisfied without having a balance. So I needed to answer those questions. Well, there was a moment that my body said, you stay at bed, you are not moving anywhere. So then I have some time to actually acknowledge that. So since that, I listen to my body. But the sad thing is that it getting to that level of, we are so stubborn that we need to get to that level of your body is completely telling you, no, you are staying, you're not moving anywhere, and getting that burnout. So
yeah. And if I may add to that, the reason why we're so stubborn, I mean, first of all, no pain, no change. That just works for people. We like to first feel pain, and then we think like, oh, okay, I don't like this pain. Okay, now I'm open for change. That's more how the mind works. But the second thing is that we have never learned to listen to our body. It's just not taught when we are raised as kids. It's definitely not in our educational system. So we don't even know what to listen to. So by the time you're ill or so tired that you need to spend a day in bed, you've ignored numerous signals already from your body that you just override with like, no, I don't have time for that now. I need to do this, or I need to do that, or I should, or whatever words you use, and then you override your system.
I should, but where does should coming from?
I mean, the should is coming from outside pressure if it's not aligned with you. Because I now work literally 7 days a week. Like I said, I don't call it work, but I don't spend an hour less on it, because it's so aligned with me, my inner alignment, that I can literally feel, even within that area of work, I still have my challenges, big time. But I can feel when I'm out of alignment. So I literally follow steps of excitement and say like, oh, this feels exciting. And then, oh, now I lose my excitement. What's happening here? And then I say like, there's a limiting belief coming up. Are we familiar with limiting beliefs? Well, something in short, something where you keep yourself small. Yeah. So, and then this limiting belief comes up, and that's a beautiful dialogue with myself. Like, okay, what am I fearing here? And by having this inner guidance system, emotional guidance system, you can move much more smoothly and with more flow through life. And then I still need to put myself back at times like, okay, I really need to just not as a rest, but more like enjoy nature or just get away from this computer because it's just simply a tiring instrument sitting behind the screen all day. So I still need to do.
So you have that excitement,
yeah,
and you have that excitement, and you can notice that there's a higher, there's lower excitement. So those are the signals, like for example, tension in chest or headache, and those the body giving you signals that something is not right. So when that thing appear, you stop for a moment and ask yourself a question on this, what that meant to me, or something like that.
Yeah, I literally start a dialogue with myself, and it doesn't have to be a long one. Sometimes it's just very quick, and it gets very quick as you longer work like that with yourself. But it's just acknowledgement first of the disbalance that your system is showing you. So if there's a contraction because someone is saying something to you, and you're like, oh, I just can feel this now, or I feel a nervousness, or whatever. If I would, I mean, I don't have it now, but in an interview like this, I could sense a nervousness. And then there is immediately this question like, what am I nervous about? I might feel rejected, or fear of rejection, or fear of judgment by you or by the audience who's listening. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's look in that. Why would I feel rejected? And what does that mean to me? Or why would I feel judged by another person? Why is that happening for me? And then we actually get into the shadow work question that you opened up with for this interview.
Tell me,
can I continue on that?
Tell me, what's a shadow? So, what do you think? What's your point of view on this?
Yeah, I think Jung was the first one who really enlarged this topic in that period of time. I mean, it was very new for people to even know about shadow, because we had well, in general, we had no awareness on ourselves from a conscious level perspective. And that's just an evolutionary right we have as human beings. So literally thousands of years ago, we didn't have the neocortex developed as much as it is now. So we literally could not have more awareness on ourselves, except for some exceptions like Jesus or the ones we know. But most of the people just went through life through motions. So Jung was the first one who really pointed this out through his work. But what the shadow is, in very simple words, we are programmed the first years of our lives by simply because as a child, you need to adjust to your environment. So the body has made it possible by putting the brain waves in a slightly lower frequency, theta frequency. And in that sense, that's the same as you use with hypnosis. And that's the same frequency you use for being very imaginative. And in these 7 to 8 years, when also it's still open here for babies, it's not for young kids, it's not closed there. So you're literally open to receive, simply because you just need to adjust. I mean, if you're born as a baby, you don't know how the world works. So you copy everything what you see. You literally copy it, you're taking over habits very unconsciously, because you're unconsciously programmed, like hypnosis. It happens at a conscious level. But you also give meaning to experience you have. And those meanings you give to experience are the greatest shadows you take with you in your life. So your mom has said something to you very innocently or very brutally. It can happen both ways. It doesn't have to be a big trauma. It can be a small trauma as well. And you made an interpretation out of that situation because as a child you felt unsafe. And you wanted to make sure that if you change your behavior accordingly, that you felt safe again. So you just look like, okay, if I do like this, oh yeah, now she reacts the way I like to have it, and then I feel safe. So as a child, you're just playing out, and when it feels good for you, and safety is the most important measurement, as well as feeling love, but that's part of safetiness, is how you navigate through life, and that's how you build up your shadow. And then we can go into what happened in previous lives, but I don't think that goes too far. And to me, honestly, it's quite irrelevant how it happened or why it happened. Again, it's relevant how it shows up now. And it shows up, if you want to know how your shadows show up, it's in any area where you have a belief system that is limiting you. Whether it's a personal belief system about how you look at yourself, whether it's a belief system from your society, from the culture around you, your religion, political belief system, doesn't matter what it is, if it limits you in your life, it is something that is part of your shadow, because one day you've decided to give meaning to that belief system as a truth for you. And as long as you hold on to that, it becomes a bigger or smaller shadow in your life.
But that's limiting beliefs. When we got that limiting belief, we are believing in one exact situation, the one way of acting towards it, and we completely refuse the other part, which is the shadow in this case. Which is the shadow in this case, because we avoid that. Or how would you say?
No, well, what happens when you had this painful experience? It's stored in your system. And when you grow up, you keep confirming actually that it's like that. So I'm not, for instance, my teacher would have told me I'm not good in mathematics. And I took that on as a belief, like, okay, he might be right. He's criticizing me. And in that moment, I believed it to be true. What I'm doing next is I'm actually reconfirming myself for many, many years that this is right. So I literally change my attitude and confirm my own belief system. That's what we keep doing again and again, until someone else tells you, like, why are you not good in math? Or you have an opportunity and you turned out to be excellent in mathematics. But as long as we're not open up to another perspective, we cannot release that belief that's stuck there. And that can be, and that most of the shadow work is always related to big traumas. Like if you had a bad youth or a heavy youth, then you must have had more difficulties in life. And of course, then it's difficult for you and you have to do a lot of therapy work or whatever. But even, I forgot his name, but the therapist in America has literally said the process to release a shadow or to release a limiting belief is exactly the same, whether it's a big trauma or a small trauma. The process to release it is exactly the same. And that's what moves you forward. So the shadow that we have is literally what I always say, life is a mirror. So anything you don't like in life right now, just look at your life as if you look in the mirror of your own self, of your own complete being, including your shadows, then you immediately can pinpoint where you still have work to do.
If you don't like there was that saying, if you spot it, you got it.
Yes. If you shine light on your shadow, it's no longer a shadow, is it?
But then it's so hard to actually admit and work on that, because when it's 20, 30, 40, and we believe something for such a long time.
Of course.
What's the percentage? It's going to be very hard to put awareness on that and change that belief, because we believe that in that for such a long time, and this relationship, money, how you react towards people. Oh, I'm an introvert. I think that's a strong answer. I'm an introvert. I should stay at home. I'm an extrovert. I should go to parties, become a seller, and go on calls. And that's very limiting.
Oh yes, we love labels. We really love labels, and because it keeps us safe. And our mind is just a protection mechanism. So our mind does anything. It creates any story you like to keep you safe and for preventing you to experience that same pain again. That's what your mind does. And that's why the stories come up and the thought comes up and the confirmation of the thought, like, you see, I'm not good to have a beautiful relationship. I'm not good enough for that. Because I've proven in my life that it happened many times. So I know for sure the next one I'm meeting will give me the same experience. The mind is just preventing you, because you might have had a nasty experience in a relationship one time. And then it keeps telling you, like, well, it will happen again and again and again. So don't go into that area. And so it's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, weirdly enough. And the paradox is that we prefer to believe that it won't get better for us, rather than we want to go to that painful, literally, it's a physical pain you feel when you open up to old emotional blocks in yourself. It literally has to release. It has to, I'm using this, as you can see it, you literally have to give space to that area to release that energy, and then the energy can flow through it again. So it's literally physically painful to do it, and we don't like it.
when you're
Yeah.
talking about releasing energy and sorry, I disturbed you. We don't like it. You finished on something.
Yeah, so we don't like it because somehow our mind is programmed that we have to protect. So it works against us all the time. But it is, and we all have these moments where it's so difficult to admit that you were wrong. You know, you have this argument with your friend or whoever it is, and it's so difficult to show defeat in that moment because you feel like oh my God, I lost. I completely have to be vulnerable now, and it feels so uncomfortable to show myself, my vulnerable self, to that other person.
And that's why we are when we are so protective, and there is that teacher coming and trying to teach us, there is another idea, for example, that introverts, extroverts, you don't have to be trying to impose something on you. It not really work. It won't work that good as if you would open up yourself and start to feel yourself those emotions. Or what wrong would happen if I would, regarding that relationship, what wrong would happen if I could open up to that person. And then what I was doing in my mindfulness meditation, I'm recalling back the situation. And for example, I have a goal and I'm feeling not good enough to achieve that goal. Okay, so then I can go to the past, but look how many good stuff you did, and you are actually good enough to achieve it. So you're making that connection in your mind. But the question I wanted to ask...
So you're literally rewiring your brain. You're reprogramming your brain with another proof that it does work.
Indeed, yes. So the question I wanted to ask is, are you doing that by yourself? Can you do that self-consciously about yourself, or is it better to have a other point of view to help you deal with that shadow?
No. I although I am a coach, I strongly believe in self-coaching. So I think that it all requires commitment and endurance and practice. So for instance, what I'm doing in my program big time is just keep coming back to learning to sense your body. And that needs practice. I really worked on that for 2 years consistently every day to just sense into. It's like living life as a meditation full time. Well, I always keep one eye inside and one eye on the outside. So I'm always sensing what's happening. When you say something to me, I always sense like, okay, what does it do to me? And it goes nowadays very natural. So it's not like an effort anymore. Sometimes it is. When I get triggered, it still is an effort. Then I lose myself and I literally drop in my frequency. And when you drop in your frequency, so you get triggered, your mind view goes literally like this. You get narrow focused, and I can be in argument with my partner, and I'm so caught up in my own belief in that moment that I am right and I have a neediness to be right and he has to give in, that I literally drop myself. But even in that moment, I can still observe myself doing it. And it's so fascinating that it's so difficult to pull yourself out of that low frequency. It really is, to me now, like almost like a game, because it helps me tremendously to teach others how to become so subtle in these nuances. So it becomes very important. That's why sensing your body is so important. It becomes very important to catch the first single touch when your shadow or your limiting belief is touched. Because as soon as you notice it, you can step out of the situation, take a deep breath, release, acknowledge that feeling, just breathe through it. Sometimes nothing more is needed than that. And then you can open up to where you were in that moment with the people you were talking to or whatever it is. So sometimes I just ask like, okay, I just need a second here.
Oh, that I couldn't put that into words very well like you did right now. When I'm noticing when I had an argument with my partner, with other people, I'm noticing I'm just going out for just a second out of the equation. So simple example is that subconsciously you can do that by looking into the mirror of yourself. So that's going to give you immediate answer. Okay, how you behave right now. So you can see that shadow you are trying to avoid, for example.
Yes.
in the reflection of the mirror, or something like having because at the beginning, when you started to work on that, it was hard. It wasn't easy,
No,
right? It wasn't easy.
not at all. It was
So
super frustrating.
because we are getting to that level right now when you have that you said 2 years, 2 or 3 years of experience.
Well,
Consciously?
no, well, the total journey is 7 years, but becoming really aware how important that sensing is. I literally practice now for 2 years.
For 2 years. So it wasn't so since 2 years you went through a long journey in order to feel more and more and more and start picking up those signals more immediately. But
yeah,
if,
more refined, yes.
more refined. If you would give a tip for a person who is completely not aware with those signals to start out with something as a self-meditative state, I would say, what would that be?
The advice I would give?
Yeah, for the person who is
new to this.
Just new to this, yeah.
Well, the first advice I give any of my clients is to do this very brief exercise 12 times a day at least. It's just, you can do it anywhere. You can do it in the toilet, so you don't have to be present with someone, but there's no excuse not to do it when you're working. I'm just using the toilet as that example. So it's just taking a deep breath. It helps if you close your eyes in the beginning and then just literally focus to the area of your heart. Try to imagine that your heart opens. So in the beginning, you need to imagine it. When you practice a little bit longer, you can feel its opening. And sometimes there's contraction. You just have to breathe through consciously in that area of your heart chest area. It doesn't literally have to be the physical heart, but it's the chest area where happens most. And it's the most easiest entrance point for connecting with your alignment. The other one is solar plexus, and the third one is the gland inside, so the third eye. But that's more difficult for most people. So you take this deep breath, you open your heart, you just take a few deep breaths and you connect to that area. And you sit there for a few seconds just breathing very slowly, consciously. And if in that moment you are agitated because something happened before, so you're just really finding a hard time to breathe in that moment consciously, or you feel a lot of contraction coming up, then just acknowledge that and continue back with what you did in life. So don't get defeated if you feel contracted the first times, because people have no idea if your body is contracted for so long out of tension and defense that you've been holding on practically your whole year of your whole life, up until then, that if you open up this area, you for the first time actually you start to feel the contraction, because before that it was natural for you to feel your body like this. But when you get attention to those areas, your body goes into relaxation, but it feels as pain at first. So it literally in the beginning, that's why people stop easily with this exercise after a few days, because it feels uncomfortable. It's just not nice always.
And there's not labels.
But that's
Do you think that there are labels which come into our mind? That's negative emotion, that positive emotion, and we're trying to avoid.
Yes. Yes, exactly, and which is true in the end, because it's where you hold a lot of emotions. But it's the area where you find liberation most easily, without going through all the sorts of therapy about how you experienced your life in the past and how mean your dad was to you. Or I'm not saying that was not bad or that was not traumatizing. I'm only saying, like, you can approach it really physically, and the words will come and the stories will come, don't worry. It will all come up to the surface. But there is a huge difference between hanging on to the story and recreating and reconfirming it again and again and again, as seeing the story as a blocked emotion, energetic part in your body that's only what's left there. Everything else that you put or add to that story is something that's only happening here in the mind. So you're reliving the past again and again and again by repeating the story. But the story itself is no longer there. It's just a memory. but the memory in your system is still there, and every time you push that button, the memory comes up.
So we adding then extra parts of the story, but we judge that story and predict the future based on what we experienced in the past.
Yes, that's how we repeat our lives in the same cycle, and why things are not moving, because we confirm in the future what happened in the past. And that's why it's so difficult to change. But it's it's no longer something that happened in the past. How cruel it has been. I mean, I'm not saying that what happened in the past is not bad, or is not traumatizing, is not awful for children. I mean, we all know the horrible stories that are happening in this world. But the question is, what do you want to do with it? And I'm talking, when I talk about this work, I really talk about adult stuff. So I'm not talking about working with children. That's a completely different story, just to clarify. Mm-hmm. So it is really literally after you have become an adult and you become responsible of your own life. From that moment on, you have a choice what you're going to do with what you had experienced in the past. Well, do you want to carry it with you or not?
I think there's that misconception we have when I'm referring to we have a choice when we are grown adults, then it's like an illusion of having a choice, because we are kept staying stuck of being a prison of our own limiting beliefs, or the way how we grown up, and then we don't have really that illusion, that choice, because we think we should act in a certain way. So it's not that we don't have a choice really here until we put that awareness into being okay. If I'm acting this way, is it aligned with my own values or not? And there is that work you are doing.
Yes, and it's a conscious choice. You have to say yes or no to yourself. And I always say to people, if you don't want to change, fine. I mean, if you are in a circumstance that you think you cannot change in that moment because of many reasons, perhaps because of children, or perhaps because of responsibilities you have, that's perfectly fine. But then fully accept that circumstance. Be fully okay with yourself that you are accepting that. But what people do is that they still don't accept that circumstance, and still, to put it very negative, still whining about their circumstance. So I say, if you keep hanging on to that you don't like the circumstance, either accept it or change it. So you make a choice, because it literally it's not helping you to just keep over repeating the story in your mind again and again that your situation is not nice.
And it will be usually what I'm noticing from people is like, it's not that easy. You don't understand.
Yes. Yeah, but I always say, like, we all know examples of people who have come from a very bad background, who became, whether it's successful, super happy, beautiful souls, whatever it is. We all know the examples. So it is, I mean, it's absolutely no excuse for whatever background you have that you cannot change it. Again, from an adult perspective. I'm just going to reconfirm it, because I know that the situations are very bad for children. And the reason why things happen to people, that's always the question, and that's asked to me, like, yeah, but why did it happen to me? Well, we can assume lots of things. We can put visions like karma onto it, or whatever it is. But does it help you? Sometimes it helps to get understanding. But I always say, like, we all have, apparently, by life, by universe, I don't know who's doing it, we just all have our own journeys, and every journey is different. And why someone is experiencing a worse life as a child, and others are just more easily going through it, there's no guarantee for happiness and success either way. I mean, I had quite an easy childhood from a general perspective, but it doesn't mean that I haven't had my challenges. It doesn't mean that I didn't have my huge heavy years. It doesn't mean that I hadn't gone through a divorce. So it doesn't really mean what the background is. It's just, what are you doing today, and what do you want to change? And if you want to change something, either look for help outside of yourself, or just be very brutally honest with yourself and just do the work every day, day in and day out. And of course, it helps to find support. And that's why coaches and therapists are right now so much in demand, because people are literally wanting to open up. Our level of consciousness literally is rising through evolution. So there's I would say, almost no way around it anymore. We cannot ignore it anymore, because literally the energy frequency of Earth is literally rising. And you can see on Earth that a lot of natural movements are happening within the Earth. And that's a whole other subject. I don't think we want to touch upon that now, but it literally is changing. It's very hugely interesting time right now to live on this Earth.
A lot of people are going into there's a demand for coaches, there's a demand for consultants.
Yeah.
But there's a trap as well. I noticed that some people are looking for the safety net by just getting coaches from each area of their life, and then they become, I would say, empowered by that level of constantly looking for validation from a coach who going to ask them some questions, and then they end up. What got my attention in you is that you like to use self-coaching. You are into self-coaching, and that what I needed to go as well a lot, because I started to look for validation from all over the place, and then I realized, okay, that's a limiting belief, that you are looking for validation from others.
Yes.
And here's the intention. Do you want a coach because you're stuck in some particular area of your life, or do you want a coach because you need a validation that what you think is right?
Beautiful. Yeah, I love what you're saying. And at the same time, I would like to add to that there are a lot of people, when they are opening up to themselves, they want to become a coach themselves. And I'm honestly quite frustrated with that, because it creates a lot of bad coaches as well, who actually still need to do a lot of work. And I'm always very honest. I'm always saying, like, I'm not there completely there either. I don't think I ever will be, because it's a constant journey of exploring. But I see many people become a coach by just doing quick fixes and really focused on, for instance, earning money for people. Like, so we have a lot of programs nowadays that they sell 7-6-figure business, whatever they call it. You've probably seen them as well. And
program for everything.
and there's nothing wrong with that as such, because there is, and I'm even on one of these programs myself, purely from a business perspective, not from a personal development perspective. But even from a personal development perspective, there's a lot of value in that program. So I'm not saying it's wrong by definition, but you get what you want, right? So you always get reflected back what you're looking out there. So like you're saying, if you're looking for validation, yeah, sure, I can get lots of validation. I just need to find different people that I'm surrounded by now, because now I have a lot of critical people around me, because I love to be reflected. So I although I do believe in self-coaching, I do go outside to my friends and peer coaches to say, like, well, I'm still stuck with this. It keeps coming back and I cannot get a different reflection on this. Can you help me? So I'm not completely against coaching at all, but I am more asking the question to potential coachees, people who are looking for help, like, what is it that you want to achieve? How honest can you be with yourself? Instead of looking for validation, do you really want to go inside and need guidance for that? Because the guidance just helps. I mean, it's easier for me to spot a blind side with you, or to spot a blind spot with you, sorry, than it is for seeing it within myself. It's just more difficult. I can look in this mirror every time, but I always give myself the same smile, because I think I look more pretty then, right? So I always look for better things in myself, and I ignore the things that I don't like so much about myself. So it's easier if you reflect that back to me and say, like, well, this was a great interview, but here you were a little bit unclear, or I couldn't really listen to what you were saying there, whatever comment you might have for me is only worthwhile listening to, because then I can develop myself again. So what is it you're looking for? Yeah, that's the question.
What you're looking for out of, well, my coach, I'm working on inner child healing. So my coach is constantly asking, whatever pops up in my mind is, what's the intention of that? What's the intention of choosing a coach, or choosing a program, of choosing the path, of choosing to even contact a person?
Yes.
So there's probably a reason why I reach out to you to ask about shadow as well.
Yes.
The intention to share and get to know more about this. But coming back to the topic, there was that quote from Carl Jung. Wanted to talk about it. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual conscious life, the blacker and denser it is.
The what? The
blacker and denser it is.
Yes.
So when shadow is hidden, it's part of us, but we don't acknowledge that, and then we can go through the life until it will just ruin us energetically, emotionally.
And it ruins our life, literally. I mean, literally things in life in that area that's linked to that shadow just show again and again it's not working. So you might one day just, I don't know, when is related to how you act in your career, you might lose your job all of a sudden, or you might end up with, I don't know, people you lose in your life, or whatever it is. It always finally shows a lot of reflections. That's what Carl Jung was also saying. It's always linked, the physical and the emotional disbalance. It's never either one or the other. Anyone who's emotionally disbalanced does have physical challenges as well, whether it's headaches, burnout, or other severe illnesses.
But then
immune system illnesses.
But then, if you are balanced on the level of health and emotionally, physically and emotionally, I noticed that you have less, you experience that less. You are living more, when you are living more balanced life. I'm talking when there are signals in your body. Right now, bringing example of yourself in that manner, that since you started to be more aware to that 2 years ago, did you notice a difference in your attitude towards life, in a success, business, and personal life and family life? Or how that impacted you when you started to be more aware?
Well, the first, if I take the whole 7 years, the first 5 years were really just acknowledging myself that I had to make choices, and I had to change things drastically for myself, and I changed career. I changed my personal life in the sense that I got a divorce. But at the same time, I also created somehow, purely following my intuition, because that was the first thing that was given to me 7 years ago, because I've always been very sensitive, but never was working with my intuition. But using that intuition, I also created enormous amount of wealth for myself. So I created the circumstance to make choices, which was a beautiful gift to myself. But looking back at it, I can really say how I can see how I made enormous, how do you say that, risks. I took enormous risk, but I knew I had to do it. I couldn't think in that moment why I had to take these financial risk in this case, why I had to do that. But I knew that I just have to do it. 3 years later, I knew why, because it gave, for instance, financial health. So it gave me the freedom to explore this very deeply. And honestly, I've been super frustrated over the past 2 years as well, because my role apparently here as a coach or as a inspirational teacher, whatever I call myself, apparently is different than than if I follow the classical path of becoming a coach. So I was again challenged to really refine this work. And partly it is also by passion, so I love doing it. But I was also frustrated not seeing it reflected back in business success. And I still am at times. And I finally got the final nugget in it. It almost seems like, okay, I can see where I still ignored a little bit of myself. And that had to do with rejection, the theme of rejection for myself. So to answer your question again, is that in health-wise, yes, it has changed me enormously. I mean, I feel super healthy. I haven't been ill. If I have been ill for one day, that was really because I ignored myself that week. So I was just literally doing too much and too long and too intense, and just physically ignored myself, or eating badly, whatever. So then I have a day off, and then I need to just rest. But other than that, I'm never ill, not even a cold, nothing. So I feel very vibrant. I travel a lot in the world, and I can do that. And I even had to deal with that, how you can travel and still feel healthy, because it's very intense in your body. And for the rest, yeah, I've created freedom to explore what I need to explore and to deal with my patience. I'm a very impatient person, so I had to deal with impatience, and I had to deal with these last things like rejection. And so these last, well, I don't say the last shadows, but for now in this phase, it feels like the last couple of weeks, so much has shifted, so much has accelerated.
Does that allow you to work, to figure out the way out of the challenges you face back then?
Yes. Yes.
And the
but the
interesting
process
part
is the same. Yeah.
So you got the process, and the interesting thing is what you said, that it's constantly the process. The challenges are appearing, and you are facing them, and probably going to be another challenges and another challenges. You overcome them, and you become healthier, and it's constantly work in progress, let's say. And there's nothing like, oh, you're gonna become a coach, you will start making 7 figures, and suddenly life going to be beautiful and no problems at all.
No, it might work for some people. So I mean, every journey is different. For me, it worked differently because I had to answer different challenges, and I'm always looking at who is appearing in my life. Like you were suddenly appearing in my life. I can't even remember how we got connected, but probably we have someone in common from another group, probably. And that opens up another string of connections. People are offering me their talents and their passion, and so I'm always looking at why am I in this connection? What is it bringing me? What can I give? It's always two-way. It's not just only getting. It's always giving as well. It needs to be a balance, and most of the time it's first giving, and then you get something back. And that's sometimes frustrating because we still have a lot of takers in this world who just want to roam around freely and just pick and to do the cherry picking, I call that. So but it's still, I've met so many beautiful, gifted people over the past 2 years that I would definitely have ignored 5 years ago, or I would have judged, or I would have labeled, or whatever. I would have put them in boxes. And now I'm not boxing anymore. But I'm also, one advice someone gave me years ago, he said, surround yourself with people you feel not so much aligned with. So you feel a contraction, you feel like a tension, you feel like, oh, I don't really like their values or what, because it keeps you sharp. It literally keeps you sharp. So don't only look for the pleasers and confirmers around you, because then you just, well, they all confirm you, right? So they keep telling you that you're great and beautiful and successful and whatever.
You can learn a lot about yourself when you are surrounding with people who made you a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because you can then you can notice, okay, what made me uncomfortable? Okay, maybe that's something what I'm avoiding in my life. Then.
Exactly. It's just another beautiful mirror to see something that I haven't seen before. Irritation, annoyment, anger, frustration, whatever comes up as that's a defense mechanism. These emotions that come up because then you need to defense. It tells something that it's not clear for you. It's
one thing what you said is that you open yourself for opportunities as well, thanks to working on that shadow. So what I'm referring to right now is very difficult to connect with people online, because a lot of marketers are spamming you, trying to sell you services to make you 6, 7, 8 figures coach in 60 days or something like that. And then you just and a lot of coaches and a lot of people in general, they don't want to engage in any conversations online. because they immediately oh, that person trying to sell me something. And
Yeah.
What's your point of view on that? You're probably getting as well a lot of people who are trying to
Oh,
sell you.
yeah. I had days like I had 100 Facebook friendship requests because of the algorithms of Facebook. So if you're really active on Facebook, you get an enormous amount of friendship requests. So I had to become very intuitive with the selection. I just literally sensed in on a picture like, okay, is this bringing excitement or not? To just pre-select people, and of course there were a lot of men just interested in the picture you showed, so there was nothing there. But there were also so yes, there were many people who just either very directly just selling something to you, or indirectly, and it costs a lot of time. And so now I'm just opening up almost immediately, like, oh, thank you for your request. What would you like to get out of it? And what would you like to? How can I inspire you? So I'm just immediately going to that conversation, like, okay, you want to, and then I say honestly, when the person is saying like, oh, well, I'm into this and I want to sell 6-7 figure business, say, well, I'm not into that right now. I'm not open to that right now. But if I am, I will come back to you. So now I've lost my frustration on that, or cleared my frustration. I can just see the game of Facebook again, but it has been frustrating, definitely.
So,
Because it becomes so superficial, and I think that Facebook is judged on many levels by people. And at the same time, we should be so grateful for this tool, because look at this. I mean, we are having this interview now, and I've had beautiful friendship just through Facebook. I even had my partner in Peru who met through Facebook. I mean, I couldn't have imagined meeting him in any other way than through Facebook.
The Facebook, that like, you can treat that as a tool which gives you so many opportunities, and you can have a conversation. Like, we are 1 hour ahead, 1 hour the difference in time, but you can meet people from like 6, 7, 8 hours on the other side of the world and just talk with people from the future, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it works the same way than meeting someone in a bar or in a network meeting. You connect with someone immediately or not. It doesn't work differently on Facebook. I mean, I know after 2 sentences, okay, this is going to be someone who can inspire you, who can inspire me, or no, this is just superficial talk, or someone who just needs me as a coach. And I'm just sometimes helping people just because they just want to share their story and don't have anyone to share it with. I'm happily just texting with them. I mean, I don't have to get business out of everything, not at all. It's just sharing myself, and then perhaps something in the future comes out of it, or not. It's okay either way.
I'm wondering what made you to accept my friend request and engage in the conversation.
Yeah, I have to look back to our start of our conversation. But I definitely I got more into our connection when you started your group or invited me for your group. So that's obviously raised the question for me, like, would I like to join or not, and what can I give in this group, and what does it bring me?
Both sides.
So it's always both sides. Yeah, it's always both sides. That's why I love this opportunity to share my insights, and if only people get one word out of it, and that just gives this aha moment. Like, now I know how it works, or now, oh yes, I've overlooked this. Then it's already brilliant, you know. And it's already worth that we were connected. So honestly, I cannot recall why I said yes to your request. But there was definitely positive energy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said yes. So that's for sure.
I'm trying to figure out why people are getting accepting my request, and I myself, I honestly cannot recall. Probably because there is a different approach. Instead of me trying to spam you with offers.
Yeah, you're not selling. That's actually, when you were starting talking, sorry I interrupt you, but I definitely want to point it out, because I'm in other groups as well, where it's more on numbers and selling. And so the initiator from the group is just actually selling his business by starting a group. And I don't have this energy in this group at all, not from other people within the group. It might happen. I mean, people might sell something to each other, which is great, but it's not like an intention of this group.
As
It
long
feels
as
real.
as long as you feel a need of for some sort of service, you can have people around whom you feel inspired by,
Yeah,
and you can, and that's as long as you both okay with that. There's nothing wrong with
perfect.
exchange.
Absolutely. No, that's why we want to connect, right? We want to.
But the problem is when you are intentionally sending requests to people just to get into friends and spam your offer. Are you interested?
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing what I like about this group, and especially about your attitude in this group, is that you are open to learning yourself. So it's not like you're the teacher and telling us what your perspective is, like I have in other groups, but it's just like an open exploration for anyone, and you are just initiating it, and you're keeping the group alive with posting your post more than that we initiated ourselves, I must admit. So in that sense, I'm easy and following you, and not putting a lot of time and effort in um, well, being active in the group. But and that's okay for me where I'm right now, because if I have to be active in every group, it's just too time consuming. So it's always looking for this balance. But I really love in this group that it's about exploring together and sharing. And I'm really happy that you initiate the questions and you initiate the invitations to, like you did yesterday. I think it was on commenting on each other's website.
Mm-hmm.
Was it? Yeah, it was yesterday.
Indeed.
Yeah. So it's just these little things, like I think, like, oh yeah, this is now a good moment. I mean,
47 comments. Like I wake up today, like,
oh really?
that many people. That if it's about the common exchange of value and helping each other, like
Yeah.
The nice thing was there that it's not just post a website, but comment the previous one, and you notice that everybody is getting value out of it, not just spamming their sites. Keep the engagement, which is interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So we are running a little bit out of time. So just one thought.
Yeah.
Just one thought at last sentence. What you would recommend to people who are starting out with working with the shadow?
Be soft and loving to yourself. I mean, you were not responsible for what happened. You were not responsible for holding on to it too long. You are only responsible for what you do with it today. So, and in that sense, just be love and sweet and caring to yourself, to the inner child, to the shadow. The inner child and the shadow is very related. Just be very sweet and soft with it, because the unconditional love is literally releasing it. So there's not much doing there. It's really just being with it and being openly caring for it. And yesterday I got a beautiful gift from a photographer I had a shoot with, and gave me a gift from his friend who wrote a book about the last letter. And I always do this exercise with my clients, to write a letter to someone they have a very strong negative connection with, or they have still a lot of resentment with. Especially the resentment part is a big one. And forgiveness is another topic. Love to share about forgiveness.
Another call for later on.
Yeah, exactly. But writing a letter to someone you had struggles with, and you never have to send that letter. You actually can burn it after you've written it. It's a beautiful act out of love to yourself.
The emotions.
Really, it's the emotion. Yeah, and but also see where you're grateful for that relationship, because any relationship, how painful it is, has brought you something. Whether it was a lesson, whether it was a painful lesson, whether it was a beautiful lesson, it doesn't matter. It has brought you something. So be grateful for that. I think being grateful for things in life lightens up many people.
There might be a lesson as well for you. There might be a lesson for the person as well in that negative emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe the shadow facing that could help them to live more aligned life, instead of constantly feeling that resentment whenever name, photo, or some sentence the person said pop up in your life. You feel the resentment towards it.
Exactly.
You can avoid. Well, you cannot avoid it, but you can acknowledge the feeling that you feel that resentment on that letter.
Yes, absolutely. And then just end it with love to yourself and love to the other person. Everyone has its story, so.
story to tell, and I love to
Yeah.
to listen to that story. And
Yeah.
well, if anybody have any questions to Luciënne, are you open to for people to get in touch with you to
Of
talk
course,
more?
always open to a free call or just an open sharing, or I call it inspiring conversations. Whatever it is, can be chat, doesn't matter. Or just a specific question. If something today just keeps hammering in your mind, just pop the question, because it can be released easily. Then it's really ready to be heard.
When you have a question, or comment below so Luciënne can answer as
Yes.
well, because I'm aware that not everybody are so confident to just go
No.
and reach out to people, and that's completely okay. If you would like to join us on the next one, we are quite busy in getting more requests, which is I'm excited to see so much of engagements from people that we getting books in advance for our calls.
Nice.
And
cool.
if you're open, comment below, reach out to me on private, or just drop a post, and we can put you in. Okay, Luciënne, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for this very inspiring conversation. I really love it.